Three, two, one. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's me, Tim. Just hanging out here at Walmart in the morning. I'm Cleveland County's superhero. I'll go ahead and unbutton here, unzip it here. Dun da da! Lyft. The only driver who's up at this hour in Shelby who does Lyft. They're rare enough as it is, but anyways, I'm out here just kind of killing some time, and not much is going on, so I figured I'd just kind of ramble a little bit, just tell you some stuff. I'm sure a lot of you know that by now I've lost a lot of weight, and people have been asking me what I've been doing and things like that, and why, and oh, you look amazing, blah blah blah, what's your secret? So I figured I'd explain a little bit about why I lost the weight I did and how I did it. First of all, it was due to a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes and how I reversed that, which I didn't even think was possible. So that's basically the whole motivation behind it. And I just figured I'd explain that and just kind of share with people the whys and hows and how I, quote, beat this deadly disease. I'm out of breath because I got a little congestion going on or something. But anyways, this will be the uncut, full, no Vaseline, as Ice Cube says, no Vaseline. This will be the uncut version, so I might say some things that are NSFW. If you don't know what that means, it means not safe for work. So don't judge me. This is what really happened. So let's get into it. Little backstory. Growing up, I was this really lanky, skinny kid. I could eat what I want, and I was just active. I was in marching band in high school. I played a lot of basketball and sports. I'd like to stay active. I was in weight training a while, and my weight was always around 180 pounds, even in high school. At my peak, I was always about 180 pounds, and I'm about 6 foot tall. So that's fairly normal. As time went on and, you get out of high school, most people gain weight. I maintained my weight for the most part of being out of high school. It's when I started working in news and, life started getting hard, like early to mid 20s, to where I started putting on the pounds. I've always kind of struggled with stress and binge eating. I eat to make myself feel better and to comfort myself in those situations where I'm stressed or if I'm feeling down and depressed. I would turn to food. Bad. And I eventually started working in news, and when you work in news, it's a stressful job. And you also, in my department, production, we either have a lot to do or nothing to do at all. And when you have the nothing to do at all, that's when you snack and start eating the unhealthy foods plus the late hours. And I was just piling it on and on and on and on. And it'll just kind of give you some ideas about the kind of food I could put away. And this is no exaggeration here. This is what I could really do. And I used to work across the street at the Little Caesars when it was here, but I could eat an entire pizza, like an entire large pizza, 14-inch pizza, like nothing, and then still, eat more food. Just think about that. All those carbs, all that sodium into the body at once, and then I could just go eat some more food. I could drink an entire 2-liter. I could eat I could eat, a whole box of like the little Chips Ahoy cookies or whatever. Just ridiculous stuff like that. And I would do that. I would do that on a regular basis, thinking, it's okay. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. No worries. It starts to pile up, and it starts to, as time went on, I noticed I was getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And I got to be about, I knew before all of this, I knew that I was about 225-ish, maybe 220. And I just kind of dismissed it. And I looked back at my pictures now, and I was like, good God, I can't believe I was so big. Because you see yourself every day, and you don't always see what, what you don't get the true you, so to speak. Other people see the true you, but you see yourself every day, so you don't know how overweight or, skinny even you look. So that was me. And, time went on. I started, this was when I first got into the news, it was 2016, but so I've been in the news about 4 years now, but I started to notice changes, and I just kind of dismissed them as, oh, it's no big deal. Like, it got to where I was going to the bathroom. Seriously, I was going to go pee 20 times a day. 20 times a day. Like, pretty much every 30 minutes to an hour, I had to go to the bathroom. That's one sign. I was always tired, and I thought it was, the crazy hours I worked, but yeah, just always tired, fatigued. I would get dizzy just out of the blue. My hands and feet would tingle. And here's where here we go, where it gets a little TMI, but if it hasn't been already. There were performance issues. The soldier can stand at salute, but he might not feel it when he gets shot. Basically, sensitivity. There was some sensitivity things going on with that. My vision was just always blurry. Really, it'd get blurry every now and then. And I'd have eye floaters. And I felt really bad a lot. And I just dismissed it for the longest time as, oh, it's just stress or whatever. And we'll go to about this January. We'll fast forward here to about this January. My brother was a type 1 diabetic. I remember when he was diagnosed, I was about 5 years old. Because I remember he took me to a haunted house at my elementary school. And after came back, he got really, really sick, and he didn't know why, and went to the doctor, and yeah, it turned out he was a type 1 diabetic. The difference between a type 1 and a type 2 diabetic, I'm a type 2 diabetic. The difference is with a type 1 diabetic, usually it happens in childhood, but for some reason their pancreas stops working completely, and they have to take insulin injections for the rest of their life to, survive. Somebody like me, type 2 diabetes is caused by insulin resistance. Your body's making the insulin, but for some reason it's not using it properly. Usually, like in what I'm pretty sure is my case, I was making the insulin, but with so much weight around my midsection and around my organs, my liver and pancreas, it wasn't having the effect that it needed to keep my blood sugar under normal levels. That's the difference between a type 1 and type 2 diabetic. Type 1s don't make insulin, type 2s do, but it's not made properly. It's not used properly. So my brother was a type 1 diabetic, and he passed away the day after his birthday this year. It was sudden and just devastating to us all. It's surprising. It just kind of happened. And that really, honestly, of course, it really affected me, brought me down. I was really binge eating and stress eating then. I'm not even going to try to explain to you how much I was eating and doing all that stuff. There was a lot of food. Anytime there's a funeral, there's a lot of food. So I was doing lots of eating. And even then, I felt myself getting worse and worse and worse with these symptoms. And I got to the point, with being overweight, I would go to sleep and I would stop breathing in my sleep. I'd wake up, catch myself not breathing, and then, gather myself, go to sleep, and then stop breathing my sleep again, wake up, and do that over and over again throughout the night. And that became a thing. sleep apnea. That's what that's called. So I noticed I started to have sleep apnea as well. And it just, yeah, I noticed this, and just having to deal with, you know, the stress of my brother passing away and everything like that. And I would even look at myself in the mirror and I was like, that's when I really started to notice it then, after around the time my brother passed away. I was like, wow, I really have put on some weight. And I was like, oh, it'll be okay. Fast forward to Valentine's Day. I got up, you know, I go to work in the after, like around 2:30 when I'm on time. And I had a bunch of like junk food before I went to work, had a bunch of junk food on my break, came back to the station, and I remember Ann White Little, she's sweet, she was so sweet. She had like these big Chick-fil-A cookies, and she was like, you want a cookie? Take one. And I was out in the newsroom, I was like, okay. Had this big chocolate chip cookie, got off of work, I went to cook out, and I had like a chicken strip tray with like the big sweet tea that, you know, that alone will give you diabetes. And I was having chest pain that entire day, and I was wondering why I was having these chest pains, because, you know, it was kind of out of the blue. I thought it was stress from work, but I was like, okay, I'm going to the ER to have this checked out. Went to the ER in Shelby, and the nurse that I had, it's funny, she's actually somebody I went to high school with. But I go in, you know, she hooks me up to the EKG, everything like that. Doctor comes in. He's like, well, everything looks fine. There's no signs of, you know, any heart attacks or anything like that. And then he just kind of pauses. He looks at me. He's like, I'm going to do one more test. He's like, I'll be back in a minute. And, you know, he comes back and has the nurse, you know, my nurse friend from high school, take my blood, and they leave a little more, they leave for a little more longer. It's quite a while. And then another nurse knocks on the door, comes in and says, Mr. Anderson, are you diabetic? At that point, I knew where this was going. And for some strange reason, I kind of knew when I went to the ER that night that I was going to get some sort of news like that. For some reason, I just kind of knew. But she asked if I was diabetic, and I said, no, I'm not diabetic. And she just walked back out, and about another 20 minutes goes by, and the doctor comes back in, and he says, he just comes in, doesn't say too much else. He says, your blood sugar is 317. You got diabetes. And he said it. He's like a Latino guy. He said it a lot like George Lopez, and just think of George Lopez saying that in his voice. That's how this doctor said it. But anyways, he said that to me, and I was just like, shit, man. Really? Like 3 weeks after my brother died from this disease, I get diagnosed with diabetes as well. And I just kind of sat there and processed. I didn't cry or anything, but I just kind of processed it. And he's like, the good news is, and me, I was like, what good news could you possibly tell me? He's like, the good news is you found out about it early. You can reverse this. And I was like, I kind of sat there and I was like, reverse this? I thought this was something that you always have, and it'll continue to progress and get worse and worse no matter what you do, and you'll eventually, you know, be on insulin for the rest of your life or whatever. And he just kind of explained to me, he was like, you know, he basically challenged me to lose 10 pounds or so. And he said, you just kind of gave me some ideas as to what to eat and to, you know, follow up with another doctor. So that was that. And I just kind of sat there a little bit while he left again. My nurse friend, she came in, and she was, that's like, if anybody's ever been to the hospital in Shelby, they're not always the best, but I got the best care when I was there, the last time that I was there when I got that diagnosis. And, you know, Kara comes in, she, puts a blanket on me, and she's like talking to me and everything, and just kind of catching up a little bit, and I was just sitting there like, wow. And like I said, I didn't cry. I didn't freak out and I told my mom the same thing a while after I found out. But with my brother being a type 1 diabetic, I always knew that there was a very good possibility that something of the sort could happen to me as well. So I think that I accepted that at an early age, that possibility might occur. And it did. So I think that's why I took it the way that I did. But, thoughts did rush into my head, and I was just thinking about, my brother passing, and I was just thinking about how everything was just flashing back in my head. I was just thinking about my mom just laid out there on the, the floor in the funeral home, just crying her eyes out, in front of my brother's dead body in the casket. And just my family members, my sisters, my dad, everybody just crying about my brother being gone at such an early age. He died at 41. And I was just thinking about that, and I thought to myself, I don't want to be the next person in that casket. And I don't want my mom, my dad, my sisters, my uncles, my grandmother, my nieces, nephews. I don't want anybody crying over me and my untimely death. So I can either sit here and cry about it, or I can get up and do something about it. And I know that sounds cheesy to say, and it sounds like something from a movie or something like that, but that's exactly what I thought. I thought that, I have to accept this, that this is what I have, type 2 diabetes. So the objective here is, like he said, I can reverse it. The objective is to work your way into reversing this at any means possible. And I seem to, when I get a challenge, it's psychopathic's not the word. It's a little bit crazy, manic maybe. I get a little manic when I'm challenged, to where I don't stop at all costs until I complete the objective. I'm one of those people. So I really stuck to this, and I was like, all right, we got to do this. And so followed up with another doctor. He just kind of verified things, and went to him. I think, well, when I was at the ER, like I said, my blood sugar was 317, and they couldn't let me leave until they got my blood sugar down to less than 300, because anytime it's over 300, you need to be in the hospital. So Kara comes in, she gives me a shot of insulin in the arm. And I thought that, I was going to be on insulin, but no, that was just to get my blood sugar down because it was so high. Insulin brings your blood sugar down. Doctor put me on metformin, these pills to keep your blood sugar down. I could explain how those exactly work. They act in your liver to, because your liver also plays a role in your blood sugar as well, but they act in your liver to keep your blood sugar lower. But usually when you're on metformin, those pills, you're on them for the rest of your life. And so I got my prescription, left the hospital, went straight to Walmart right here and bought a meter, went home and checked it. This is like at 5:30 in the morning. Checked it, and my blood sugar had already gone back up again to like, I want to say like 340. And I don't think I ate anything. So yeah, it was bad. And I went to the other doctor, and he verified things like I said, and I do a urine test, and he's like, he's like, there's lots of, well, he didn't say it that way, but basically he said that I had a lot of sugar in my urine. Like I could probably drink it and it'd probably be like an energy drink. That's how much sugar I had in my urine. And my blood sugar then at the doctor's office was like 180-ish. And he checked my A1C, which an A1C is a good measure of how well your blood sugar is. Usually a healthy person's will be less than 5.5. And diabetic is like 5.6 and on up, or pre-diabetic, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's higher than 5.6. Mine was a 7.9, which isn't good. I think with a 7.9, your blood sugar on average is 180 at all times, if not higher. So he basically told me the same things that the other doctor told me, and gave me some diet ideas. He gave me like some sheets of what to eat. I looked at those sheets and I was like, wow, I can't eat fucking shit with these things. So I was like, okay, so it says eat about 1,800 calories. Like, okay. I didn't go by any of that. I just went, I was like, okay, I went to Walmart and I was like, okay, what is it here that I can eat? What do I know? Because I know a lot of people that are diabetics, and it runs in my family past my brother. What do I know that I can eat in here that won't make my blood sugar worse? So I got like salad and like, the green stuff. And I was like, well, he weighed me, of course, and I was 231 pounds. 231 pounds. I used to be 180 at my healthiest. 231 pounds. So I had my goal was to get down to my 180 weight from, back then. So I had to lose about 51 pounds. And I sat at home and I was like, okay, I gotta get some exercise in so I can lose this weight. How can I do that? Because I work late hours and it's not easy to, just work out. Like, and you have to pay for a membership. I could pay for a membership at the gym, but that's money. I'm cheap. So what I started doing was I went on YouTube and I found exercise videos, and I would do those in my room. I would do them for, at first, 30 minutes a day, and I couldn't get through them at all. It was terrible. I couldn't get through these videos. I couldn't complete them without pausing at all. And so that became my routine. Every day I'd get home from work and I do the exercise videos, 30 minutes, be drinking my water and, everything like that. And that's how I started. And I started taking the metformin. At first I didn't want to take it, but I started taking it, and it made me feel terrible. I lost, 8 pounds in the first 2 days of taking it. And I had diarrhea like all the time, which is bad because I do newscasts. I can't just get up and go, leave the audio board and go take a crap when I want to. So I was on this and I just always had diarrhea. I had to make sure I emptied out before every newscast because I didn't want to, have an emergency. So it just made me feel really terrible. And I lost, without even trying, it made me lose a lot of weight. And that metformin also depletes your B12 and makes you weak. B12 is a vitamin that is very important to your overall energy. And so I started taking vitamin B12 supplements from here. And as soon as I did that, it was like, that stuff is like crack. So like, I felt like I could take on the world. And so I kept taking this stuff and I was just doing those videos and I started seeing results. I lost about 20 pounds in 3 weeks just doing those videos. And eventually I got to where I could do them without stopping. And then eventually I got to where I would walk in Belmont at the park on my break or before work, on my dinner breaks. At first, I would walk around the block, past the middle school and everything like that, past Nellie's. I'd do that, which is, the entire block is about a mile. I'd do it twice. I started out walking 2 miles. I could do it in an hour. And then eventually, after I got bored with walking, I was like, okay, time to start running. And I would run a mile around the track. They have a track in Stowe Park. I'd run around that, run a mile. And then I just go about my day, go back to work. And eventually, after that, I got to where I was like, okay, let's do something a little more challenging. I started playing basketball again. So I would play basketball the entire hour of my dinner break. And basketball is actually a really good way to burn a lot of calories. You don't realize how many calories you burn by playing basketball. And it's an aerobic sport, so you're getting your wind, and it's, good cardio. So I'd play basketball every day, 1-on-1, 3-on-3. I was there, or just shooting by myself. I was always there. And eventually I got to where I would play basketball. Well, I would run a mile and then play basketball. And that would be my routine. I could run the mile in about 15-20 minutes at the time, come back, across the street and play basketball the rest of the time. And it got to where I was losing more and more weight, and it was happening fast. It was happening really fast. And my coworkers, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? You look like you've been losing weight." I was like, "Well, I'm just playing basketball. I'm hooping." And eventually it got to where I was running, playing basketball, and I was burning about 700 calories just doing those two things on my break. Really productive breaks. And I was like, okay, time to kick it up a notch. So I bought some dumbbells, and I'd eventually run the mile. I got to where I could run the mile in about 12 minutes, run the mile, play basketball for 45 minutes, go back to work, come home, and then I do dumbbells in my room for 20 minutes. And it got to where I was doing all three of those things every day, every single day, doing all three of those things, all while I was eating, healthy and drinking water. Now we get into what exactly the kind of things I was eating. I eliminated carbs and sugar as much as possible. At the time, I pretty much cut out all sugar, drank nothing but water. Basically, I didn't intend to follow a ketogenic diet. I was basically winging it on my own with very little to go on. But the specific foods that I was eating, what I was doing was more so a ketogenic diet, which is basically high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. That's a ketogenic diet. That's the gist of a ketogenic diet. So I was eating a lot of grilled chicken, spinach, peanut butter, tuna, tilapia, like fish, all grilled meats, black beans, granola, yogurt, eggs, lots of salad, and that's the gist of what I was eating, and just strictly water at the time. Occasionally I would have some artificial sweetener, like the flavor packets. But that was the gist of what I was eating, and the weight just totally fell off. Like, it surprised me how fast the weight fell off. I think in the first month, I was diagnosed in February on Valentine's Day, to about March 20th, to about March 15th. Yeah, that's a month. I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. I lost 30 pounds in 30 days in March. After that, it slowed down a little bit. I I think a lot of it also had to do with the fact that, I was traveling and stuff. Because in April, I went to Florida and, went with the family. And, you go on vacation, you're going to, cheat a little bit. So I had cheesecake and stuff like that. But by the time, I skipped a little point here, but 2 weeks after I'd been diagnosed and had started exercising and everything, my blood sugar just suddenly went normal. It started to become normal. I'd check it. I was checking it 3 times a day just because that's the kind of person I am. I was checking it 3 times a day and it was getting better and better. And not even 2 weeks after I was diagnosed, it was like, oh, these are healthy numbers. So I just kept doing what I was doing. And I started noticing that the symptoms were starting to fade. Like the tingling in my hands and feet were going away. The sleep apnea went away. Like I stopped, suffocating in my sleep. My blurry vision got better. Just so many changes I was starting to see after just the first 2 weeks. And the metformin that I was on, it got to where my blood sugar was actually starting to get in the 60s. 60s is too low, and the doctor, he says, "Oh, it'll never that stuff makes sure that your blood sugar doesn't go too low." Mine was starting to go too low. I remember sitting in the parking lot at work checking it, and it was like 66. So I pulled myself off the medication, the metformin, and I just kept doing what I was doing, eating the things that I talked about a second ago. And like I said, March, I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. April was a little slower. It kind of tapered off as the months went by. April, I lost about 20 pounds. So already by April, I was pretty much at 180. In 2 months' time, I lost the 50 pounds, but I was like, why not keep it going? So May rolls around. May really slowed down, and I lost about 10 pounds in May, which is still okay. And June, I probably lost about 11. And, you follow up. The doctor wanted me to follow up 3 months after I was diagnosed to see if I had reversed the type 2 diabetes. It seemed I did. On my own, I pretty much knew that I kicked this diabetes thing into remission because my blood sugars were normal. I was feeling good. I felt better than I ever did. I had my wind, I was active, and I was just thin. I had to totally buy a totally new wardrobe. Like none of my old clothes fit me anymore, which is kind of disappointing because even my jackets I can't wear anymore because I'm much thinner now. But yeah, it was just night and day with how I was feeling. And so I pretty much knew that I had kicked this into remission. I went to the doctor, 3 months from February, whatever that was. And he really he didn't want to check my A1C because of, the time that I was on the metformin. He didn't want to include that in the A1C score. So he was like, well, come back in another 3 months. And I felt like he wasn't being as thorough as he should have been. I thought he should have checked it anyway. So I went to CVS, bought my own A1C testing kit at home, and I checked my A1C myself. And I messed up the first one. I paid $40 for this thing, these A1C testers. I paid $40 for the box. You get 2 in it. I messed up the first one. $20 gone. And I was sitting there at home, and I was like, okay, you spent $40 on this. You got to get this one right. So I read the instructions because there's like specific packets and they can't be open for too long or the air contaminates the chemicals. So I made sure I did it correctly, put the blood drop in there and let the chemical do its thing. And it scored it and it said a 5.1. Remember I said, a healthy person has an A1C less than 5.6. So a 5.1 proved that I was already in remission of type 2 diabetes. I'd already reversed it. And so I kept with that. I knew that I had put it into remission, but I also kept doing what I was doing until I went to the doctor again in August. And so August rolls around, and the appointment was like at 8 o'clock in the morning, really early. I was the first one there. Like, I've never had an appointment that early in my life. I was there before the doctor. The doctor rolls in, and he looks at me from like the distance, and like he's unlocking the place. That's how early this appointment was. I go in, you know, doc does his thing, asks me a bunch of questions, weighs me, and I was 160 pounds. Remember, I was 231, but now I was 160. Phenomenal. He was blown away, and he had his, nurse stick me, check my A1C. At the time, my blood sugar was in the 70s, like mid 70s, because I didn't eat prior. That was my fasting blood sugar, so really good. Well, it's a little on the low side. And then she checks my A1C, and he's like, well, before I got my score, he's like, well, I'm gonna have her check, and we'll see if there's anything else I need to do for you. But you look incredible. You're in really good shape. And he comes back in. He's like, Mr. Anderson, your A1C is 4.95. You said 5, but 4.9. Your A1C is 5. He's like, you don't have sugar. You don't have high blood sugar. And I was like, fuck yes. Yeah. I knocked my phone down. I was like, yeah, bitch. That's what I want to hear. I wanted the doctor I knew that I already put it into remission, but I wanted to hear the doctor say those words. That's when I got my satisfaction. That's when I knew that the objective was complete. So he said that, just keep doing what you're doing. Check it at your own discretion occasionally. And, just keep eating healthy. And you shouldn't have any problems for a very long time if you just keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, completely symptom free. He said there are no signs of diabetes. And I'm in good health. Not long after I was diagnosed, to be thorough, I try to be thorough with stuff like this. I did go to a eye doctor appointment and a foot doctor appointment. The eye doctor, I went to the eye doctor in maybe April. He said that, he checked my eyes and he explained to me, he's like, oh, there's no signs of diabetes in your eyes or anything else. He explained when people have, macular edema or cataracts or any of the other diabetic retinopathy, any of those just conditions with their eyes from diabetes, their blood sugar is usually in the 200s for 10 or more years. That's why they start having these, diabetic symptoms in their eyes. And he said that my eyes were healthy even back then. But when your blood sugar does go high, it can blur your vision. So that explained my blurry vision in the past. Went to the foot doctor. It went well either way, but there were some hiccups with that, but it was due to another reason. Went to the foot doctor and he said, oh, your feet look, you got the feeling in your feet's fine. Very normal. There's no signs of anything wrong with your feet as far as diabetes goes. But he said, one thing I do notice is you've got early bunion deformity, and your condition's about 6 out of 10. And so that's from being flat-footed. So he gave me he had to mold me some custom orthotics and stuff, but that's totally unrelated. But he said that with my, there being no signs, I shouldn't have to make an appointment with the foot doctor like every year. No, just come every 2 or 3 years if I want to. My feet are fine. So there were, like I said, no signs of diabetes going on in my body. So I took that and ran with it, and just celebrated. Yeah, I planned the trip before the appointment, but I kind of wanted to do something for the accomplishment, and a lot of that's the reason why I decided to go to Colorado. And Colorado is a place you go to, really outdoorsy, and you don't go there unless you're active, because the altitude and the breathing, and it's just all outdoors, and there's a lot of hiking and walking or running. So that's why I chose to go to Colorado, just to sort of celebrate. I went to Colorado in September, and I've just been sticking with, trying to be healthy, a lot healthier, and I still am. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. Not bragging either. Best shape. I I lost my train of thought here. Best shape of my life. I'm just living the good life now, and I'm eating salad and all the right things, and paying closer attention to the things that aren't so good. It used to be that even while I was eating healthy, if I did go out to eat, and I ate something unhealthy, I eat about half of it at a time. That was another one of my secrets. I'd eat half the unhealthy meal at a time, save the other half for the next day or, the day after. And that was the key to eating what I wanted, but, eating what I wanted, but not overdoing it. And basically, now I eat what I want. I just know I pay a lot more attention to the carb content, the sugar content, and I read labels a lot more than I used to. And I'm just conscious of those things. I'm not binge eating anymore. I'm not snacking really heavy. If I am snacking, it's on healthy things like celery, carrots, nuts. These nuts. Yeah, just snacking on the right things. And I've gotten to where I pretty much eat normal things now. I'll eat a cheeseburger, or I'll have a McDonald's sundae every now and then. I'll have a Dr. Pepper or something. And my blood sugar levels they're relatively normal. I've only gotten an abnormal blood sugar reading maybe once, and that was the other day. I had some banana pudding, and I think I ate too much of it. Like, I had a big helping of this banana pudding, and my blood sugar was like 155, which is not terribly high, but that's higher than 140 2 hours after eating. But anyway, maintain healthy blood sugars for the most part now, as long as I keep it in moderation. And that's basically my theme nowadays. I don't eat the ketogenic, thing I was doing to lose all the weight, but I'm just more conscious of what's in the food I'm eating and how much I eat. Basically, like I explained about, being type 2 diabetic, and how your pancreas still works, but the insulin isn't used properly due to the weight around. It's usually due to the weight around your midsection. Basically, I have to try a lot more to keep my weight in check, so that I don't get that midsection weight and the diabetes come back. That's why with type 2 diabetes reversal, it's not so much a cure, because not everybody can do it. Not everybody's lucky enough to do it. But if for some reason you gain the weight back, or your beta cells stop working, the high blood sugar will come back, and you'll be type 2 diabetic all over again, and it'll progress. So that's the thing with type 2 diabetes. So I'm just trying to keep my weight in check and not overeat. As of today, and I stopped working out last week because it was so hot, but I've gained 3 pounds. So I'm about 164 pounds now. And I'm like trying to figure out where that came from, but I'm going to have to start, getting back at it. It's cooled down past few days. So I got to get on the grind again. But I basically just have to keep my weight in check. And I weigh myself a lot more than I used to. Check my blood sugar, my blood pressure. My blood pressure, the doctor, I went to the ER that night, he explained to me that your blood sugar and your blood pressure are really closely related. A lot of people don't realize that, but if your blood sugar is high, your blood pressure is usually high, and that's because the glucose in your blood makes it thicker. It makes it thicker. So it has to work harder. Your heart has to work harder to pump it through your veins and your blood vessels. So if your blood sugar is high, your blood pressure is going to be high. And my blood pressure it went from being in like the 150s. Now my blood pressure is usually in the 90s. It's amazing. The human body is extremely forgiving. It surprises me just how forgiving the body is. All the abuse we take and we put on it, all these terrible things we eat, and how if we just make the right changes in the right amount of time, like I did, the body will repair itself. And I am extremely, extremely lucky. Not everybody is lucky enough to reverse type 2 diabetes. This is recent medical discovery that it can even be reversed. Usually, in the past, they thought that it was something, like I said, it was something that progressed. But in the past few years, they started to discover that people are reversing it and, getting off their medication. Some type 2 diabetics even take insulin and not just metformin, but getting a little tired here. Gotta go work in a few hours. But I'm extremely lucky to be able to have reversed my condition. Like the doctor said, it's mostly probably attributed to me being young and that I caught it early, and my beta cells were able to wake back up and start making insulin properly once I got rid of all this here and all this here. So I am very fortunate for that. And now everywhere I go, people are like, you look I can't believe you've lost 70 pounds in 4 months. 70 pounds in 4 months. You should write a book. What are you doing? Like, and just asking me for advice. And the one thing I tell them is, I set out, I had this goal, this objective set out, and I'm a little manic, I'm a little crazy, but the doctor challenged me to lose 10 pounds and I ended up somehow losing 70. Just hard work and commitment. That's the key to losing weight and keeping it off. Hard work and commitment and dedication. Get you a routine and stick with it every single day. Don't break your routine if you can help it. And don't get discouraged by your results. I was lucky. I tend to be lucky in a lot of things, but I was lucky where my results happen extremely fast. But that may not be the case for other people. I've always been able to lose weight really fast, but some people it's a lot slower. So don't be discouraged by your progress. It's not a race. You just need to work on, if somebody in my past position, you just need to work on you and getting yourself healthy as best as you can. It's not about how much you lose or what exactly you do, as long as you're taking the right steps. You will see the results. And the thing about the specific diet, we can say it's a ketogenic diet. The thing about it is, if you do that and keep, carbs and sugar, those two are the big things in that diet. If you keep those things to the bare minimum and just, eat, reasonably, smaller portions, you're not going to go over 2,000 calories. Like, there's no way. If you're eliminating sugar and carbs, no way you're going over 2,000 calories in a day's time. So you don't even have to count calories. Just limit those two things and eat moderate meals 3 times a day. You're going to lose weight, especially if you're staying active 30 to 90 minutes a day like I was. It's going to happen. Drinking nothing but water, drinking 100 ounces of water a day, it's going to happen. So find something that works for you and stick with it. Don't get discouraged. And that's basically all you have to do, at least all I had to do. And I'm just, just some nobody here in old Podunk, Shelby, North Carolina. So if I can do it, any of you can. And just don't get discouraged by it doesn't even have to be type 2 diabetes. Don't get discouraged by any condition or disease or situation that you're in. You just attack it. You're like, okay, this is what happened, and now I got to take the steps to get past it or get through it, and don't stop at all costs until you do. So after I rambled for about 51 minutes, I'm trying to wrap this up here in a way that makes sense. Basically, that's my story, my hour-long story of how I reversed my type 2 diabetes. And yeah, I just hope that maybe somebody could take something interesting, take something from this that they can use. And hopefully you all make healthy decisions and live long and healthy lives. Stay in good health. Be nice to each other, everybody. I don't want to see you on my newscast. See ya.